It's the Tune Under podcast. It's the Southern Hemisphere's original and best dedicated Newcastle United podcast. I am Jack in what is still a very hot Brisbane, even though it's not summer anymore. And I've got Dimmy in the DPRV. How you doing, Dimmy?
Very well, mate. It's been a good afternoon for me, AFL or footy-wise. So always happy to come on this show after a good result with my other interests. And you got to soak up the wins when you get them.
2 from 2 for the Essendon Bombers. This is a bit unexpected.
Very unexpected, but have to enjoy it while it lasts. So with the two not playing this weekend, it was the next best thing. So happy days for me.
International breaks. What a fucking pile of shit. I can't stand it. What's going on? Why is this allowed to happen at this point of the season as well, just when we're starting to get excited and get into it again? We've got Craig in Mackay. How are you, Craig?
I'm good, mate. I'm with you on it's not quite summer, but it's still mad hot here in Queensland. It's technically autumn here, but it's still 30-odd degrees throughout the day. It's not like autumn for back home, is it, mate?
No, not quite. And yeah, it's. I thought by now it would have kind of cooled down a bit. I think it usually does, but yeah, we'll keep going while we can. But yeah, international breaks. What's it all about, Craig? Middle, like not even the middle. We're getting towards the real pointy end of the season here, and all of a sudden we'll have to have a break so England can play against. I think they played Italy and they're playing Ukraine, but I don't even. Who cares? Like, who cares about it? What's going on?
Nah. And I don't know whether it's because there's a lack of interest in the Newcastle squad or anything. To be honest, I've never been heavily interested in the England squad for probably the best part of 15, 20 years now. It's just something I think a lot of fans feel the same way. It's just an inconvenience in the football calendar these days. And I just can't wait for the Premier League to get back.
Having said that, though, our Garansky did manage to score his first goal for Australia. Dimmy, that was a little bit of a tap-in for him, wasn't it? But nice for him to get on the score sheet.
Yeah, great to see him get on the score sheet. A good little confidence boost for him. He's been having a little bit of a tricky time lately with Hearts. Hearts haven't been doing great, and he hasn't been getting the minutes probably that he's looking for. But good result for the Aussies, and good to see Garang score. Hopefully he starts on Tuesday. I'll be there at Marvel Stadium, so hopefully I can see him start on Tuesday and put out a good performance.
Who are they playing against on Tuesday?
Ecuador.
Oh, it was Ecuador
again. Yeah, but it's a home and home against Ecuador. I don't know why, but it's good to see what's his name still playing with Ecuador up front. That bloke who used to play for Wigan. Who's his name? Valencia. I think he's still there.
Oh yeah, he's scored.
Valencia. Yeah.
Jesus.
He played for West Ham as well. Yeah, he scored a couple of goals in the World Cup. Yeah. Oh, well, I suppose when they're traveling that far, they might as well get a couple of games in, but it does seem a little bit strange.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to get opponents down here, definitely.
What we're going to do anyway, we're going to take advantage of this international break, and we're going to have a little bit of a look ahead at the last 12 fixtures. We're going to have a little summary of the season so far, and see if we can sort of have a little bit of a stock check and kind of make sense of what's happened and what might happen over the last 12 games. I think we're all pretty relieved, really, that we won those last 2 games before the international break, because it was, if we hadn't have won at least one of those games, or if we'd have lost one of them, I think it was going to be a long 2 weeks. So it was really good, and I think the manner we won that Forest game in as well was just fantastic. So before we get into it properly, I just want to say we've got a bit of a push for subscribers at the minute, so we want to get about another 150 by the end of the season. So we don't pay for subscribers. We just get what we can. A couple of us have got our wives subscribing, but that's all right. But yeah, we just want to keep putting the content out, and we want the YouTube algorithms to help us. So give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a comment and a 5-star review if you listen on the audio, and it really helps us out. So the season so far, I think it's been, I would say that this has been kind of, I split it into kind of 4 sections. So the way that I view the season so far is that it's the first 7 games, which we only won 1 out of 7 in the league to begin with. And then from the Fulham game up to the World Cup, that's what I would say is section 2, where we won 7 out of 8 games. We went on a real run then. Section 3 for me is the post-World Cup and before the EFL Cup final. where we obviously had that cup run, but we only won 2 out of 9 league games. And then we're now in section 4, which is the post-cup final. I think that's really clearly categorized for me into those different sections because of the way that the form's gone and the momentum has ebbed and flowed. But Dimmy, I'll come to you first. What do you make of the season so far? Has it kind of surpassed your expectations? Has it been what you thought it would be? How do you make sense of it so far?
Yeah, it's been a fun ride, to be honest. It's been really enjoyable to wake up at stupid times in the morning to watch us every week. It hasn't been regretful as it has been for most of the last 28 years or however long I've been watching Newcastle, and so that's a huge positive. And we've got a team that generally competes now, and obviously no one thought we'd be in 4th or 5th or wherever we are at the moment in terms of competing for the top 4. But the fact that we're showing this much improvement already, with obviously we've spent money, but not a complete makeover like a Man City or even a Chelsea did back in the mid 2000s. So I think there's massive scope for improvement, and it's just like Craig said, you can't wait for the next game to come up because you're so excited to see us play and so excited to see us grow. So it's been a fantastic ride so far, and I'm sure there's many more great memories to come in the next 12 games.
Yeah, and it's been funny the way it sort of has been like a roller coaster, like you said. Like there's been ups and there's been downs, but there's definitely been more of the ups, and then that's made the downs a bit noticeable when they have come up, when we've got into a little bit of a rut, which has happened probably twice in the season so far, which you wouldn't maybe think looking at the league table, which we'll do in a minute. But Craig, what about you? How do you sort of analyse the season so far for Newcastle?
Well, if everyone remembers correctly, I did predict that we'd get to the League Cup final, and not even Nostradamus managed to get that one. So, I'll take a big credit for that one. But yeah, league position where we are now, we are probably a good few positions of where we all expected or even where we would like to have been. We all want to be top, obviously. But yeah, sat 5th with 12 games to go. If you had told me that at the first game of the season for Nottingham Forest, I would have put your hand up for it. Really would have.
All right, let's have a little look at the league table now then. So this is after we've played 26 games. A few of the other teams have played a few extra. Brighton have played one less than us, but everyone's played between sort of 25 and 28 games. And here we are sitting in 5th in the table. We've had 12 wins, 11 draws, and only 3 defeats. So the thing that really sticks out to me about this league table is the defeats. We've got the joint fewest defeats of the season with Arsenal, with 3. We've only conceded 19 goals, which is 6 less than any other team, including Man City. So that really jumps out here. That's a amazing stat, really. Like Newcastle just don't do good defenses. They haven't done good defenses even when we've had good teams. We don't do good defenses, and then that's meant that we've got the 3rd best goal difference in the league as well. The other thing that probably stands out a bit is the draws. There's been 11 draws, so only Brentford have drawn more than us with 12, and no other teams even got double figures. So we're going to talk a little bit later about things we've been impressed about and sort of a few areas for concern and areas for improvement. And I think probably the amount of draws might be one of the areas we might touch on. And we've only scored 39 goals as well, but yeah, we've got 47 points. We hit the magic 40 point barrier a few months ago now, and we're sitting pretty in 5th with a couple of games in hand over Spurs in 4th. Craig, the league table looks pretty good, doesn't it? What about that so far do you think really stands out for how we've been this season?
The biggest thing is the lack of defeats, because again, as you mentioned, Newcastle don't defend well historically, but that is the genuine reason as to why we are in the table where we are. We defend well, we defend solid as a team, not just as a back 4 or back 5 if you include Nick Pope in that one. We are a solid unit defensively, but we are also organised as well. I mean, when was the last time you could say about any Newcastle team? We are organised, not just 11 people out there to kick a ball and see what happens. But yeah, that position is wholly justified. It's not by luck, it's not by chance. We genuinely deserve to be there looking at the numbers in that table.
Even more impressive when you consider that Eddie Howe can't organize a defense, can he? And that was
That's very true.
that was we were definitely told that when he signed for us. I think a lot's been made of the fact he went and watched Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone. But I think Eddie said himself he was only there for something like a few hours, and then like I think people might be reading a little bit too much into that. But Dimmy, like you said before, 5th in the table at this stage of the season. I think it's I mean, you can go back to sort of before the takeover or even Christmas last year, and you would think that, you think you're on drugs if you were looking at this now, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%. They'd bring the straitjackets and you'd be wheeled away very, very quickly and not to be seen for a very long time. It's staggering how quickly the turnaround has happened, and it's really been since probably January. I'm not sure if anyone has done the table since start of January to now, but I'd hazard a guess we'd be well and truly up there in the top 3 or 4 for the last year and a half. And so it's no fluke that we've just picked up this season or had a couple of good runs and made our points then. It's been a consistent improvement and a consistent run of form. And like you boys said, we don't get beaten. I mean, when we lose, all hell breaks loose on social media or everyone loses their minds like it's the end of the world because we don't lose very often. I mean, we've lost 3 games out of 26 in the league. We lost another 1 game in the FA Cup and obviously the final in the League Cup. So we've really lost 5 games in probably 35, 36 matches, which is ridiculous. So there's nothing really that we can complain about as Newcastle fans this season. And like you said, there's still a long way to go for us this season, and probably that top 4 position is right there for the taking.
You would think there was nothing to complain about, but some people still do manage to find things to complain about. So we might touch on that as well. But it's amazing, isn't it? Eddie Howe's Newcastle only really get beaten by Liverpool and Man City because they were 2 of the teams that beat us last season, and we lost to Leicester and we lost to Arsenal once as well.
Spurs away, I think, as well.
Yeah, Spurs was really bad, but there was only really a handful of games you actually lost. And last season, and that was Liverpool and Man City as well, and they're the only 2 teams that have beaten us this season as well. So if you can shut teams out like that, and if you can manage to sort of, lock the door in that way, it really stands you in good stead. Even if you're not winning all the time, as our friend Steve Bruce said, you're still accumulating points, and it's all about the accumulation of points. So even when you draw, you're picking points up. So I just wanted to have a little look at the home table and the away table as well. So this is the home table, and you can see from this we're only 7th in the league for home form. We've played 13, we've won 7, we've drawn 5, and we've lost 1. And we've scored 21 goals, and we've only conceded 9 goals. So again, we've got the second best home record in terms of goals conceded, but there's been a couple of draws in there, hasn't there, Craig? That I mean, we're being picky here. We're being super nitpicky and maybe hypercritical. But there's a couple of draws we've had that we could have, if would have managed to get maybe an extra couple of wins. One of them against Palace was a joke with the VAR decision, and there's been a few others where we haven't put our chances away. But would you say that home is about where you would expect us to be, about 7th in there?
Yeah, I would, to be honest. Again, if you had told me to start the season would be 7th in the table for home form, I would have taken that off you, not a problem at all. And the one key thing that I want to stress on this one is we've lost 1 home game all season at home, and that was against Liverpool when we went down to 10 men really early. And even then, we still gave Liverpool a bit of a game of it. It wasn't all them. And if you think the games that we've actually conceded first and we've come back, I think Palace was one of them. I believe Bournemouth, that was another, and there's probably a few more in there as well. So we're not losing games. We're finding a way to claw back into them, which to me is a huge positive. We're not just accepting the inevitability of, oh shit, we went 1-0 down. Let's just see what we can do. But we are clawing ourselves back into games. We're digging our points. We are grinding out results. There may not be wins, but if you can't win, don't lose. That's as good as I'm going to say, to be honest.
Yeah, and Liverpool, we shit the bed basically. Like even before Pope got sent off, we conceded 2 really bad goals. And that was the week before the cup final as well. So I think Eddie's come out now and just admitted that cup final did distract us. Like it's human nature. It was massive. It was all anyone could think about or talk about, and it kind of it maybe wasn't the best thing that we had Liverpool and the week beforehand. And then it was really uncharacteristic. We conceded those goals, and then obviously everyone knows what happened with Nick Pope. But so yeah, that is the one defeat. But teams are not going to be looking forward to coming to St James's Park. I was looking at we're going to talk about our predictions for the season later, but Arsenal have still got to come here. I think that's the fourth last game before the season finishes. So that'll be one, especially after last season, that they'll be looking at and thinking that's going to be a hard game. They probably wouldn't want to be coming to players then. Let's have a little look at the away table, and I'll let you talk about this one, Dimmy. We've got 13 games, 5 wins, 6 draws and 2 defeats, and 18 goals and just 10 conceded. That's probably it's funny with away form, isn't it? Because you can get more points than less points than at home, but you're still higher up this table because obviously teams don't win away as much. But would you say that that's kind of what you would think, Dimmy, about third in the away table?
Well, when you know our home form is only 7th, you'd have to think our away form has been great, and it has been. And it's something we're not used to as Newcastle fans. I mean, even the rare times where we hit the 40-point mark and we just stayed up, it was the home form that would save us. It was never the away form. We were always rubbish away from home. We'd be conceding 2 or 3 goals every week and not giving ourselves a chance. And you can see from those stats, we've only conceded 10 goals in 13 away games. So less than a goal a game gives us a chance to at least get a result, if not a win. And obviously, we'll talk about the goal scoring probably a bit later on. And we've only scored 18 out of 13, which again is not great. But when you're away from home, you build your performance from the defense, and you become hard. You first want to say you're hard to beat, and from there you express yourselves, and you hopefully get a couple of chances on the break or when you go forward. So that's how we build our team. We've hard to beat from the back, like Craig said before, and it's worked well away from home. That we've got out of 13 games, 11 games we've got results out of, which is fantastic.
Yeah, obviously
if
Liverpool.
You look at that,
go on.
Sorry on that. If you look at that as well, we've only lost once away to any of those teams in that 6. We got a point at Arsenal. We got a point at Man United. We got a point at Brighton, and we beat Spurs. There's only Man City that have beat us away from home out of those 5. Sorry, and I think that's fantastic, to be honest, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is, and like the Spurs win was probably a bit of I think that was the moment when we realised we're a really good team, and we might actually be within with a chance of qualifying for Europe. Yeah. But the goals there is kind of inflated a little bit by the 4 we got at Fulham and the 4 at Southampton as well. So if you take those 2 out of it, that's 10 goals in 11 games. So it's definitely been more of a problem to score goals away from home. But like you said, we still haven't been conceding. So, we're still in with a chance of points. And the Liverpool, everyone knows about that. It was we should have won that because there was the Phantom offside Isak goal, which just was ridiculous, and then there was the 10 minutes of stoppage time that they managed to score in as well. So I think it's just interesting to look at the home and the away table. It's not something we do very often, and we're slap bang in the middle of it. We're 3rd in the away, 7th in the home, and 5th in the actual table. So we are going to have a look later at our predicted tables where we think we're going to finish. But before we do that, I just wanted to have a bit of a think about what. I asked you both for a couple of things that have really impressed you this season. Not necessarily just about on the pitch or about the club, but something about Newcastle United or the support or anything that's really really impressed you this season and that you'll really remember or take to heart about what's gone on so far. So, Dimmy, I'll come to you first. What's the first thing that has really struck you this season?
I think for me, it's we've got a team and a squad who absolutely bleed for the shirt. It's heartening to see that players care. I mean, players obviously do care, but sometimes they don't care as much as supporters. And for years, there's no way the players were caring as much as the great support that Newcastle fans were giving home and away. So now when you see Bruno go up to the away support or go up to the fans and just lose his mind every 2 minutes, or you see Dan Burn put a big challenge in, or there's always something that the team is doing that shows that they are giving 110%. And obviously, you'd think that's a given, but a lot of the times it's not in professional sport and professional football. And the fact that these boys are bleeding for their shirt and giving absolutely everything, it's what everyone wants as support is obviously results. Everyone wants to win and win the league and win trophies, but as long as everyone's giving absolutely everything and bleeding for every single challenge on the pitch, then you can't really complain. I think that this team's got that in spades.
And you can't ask for more than that, you know. We've seen players like, I always talk about Michael Owen and Musa Sissoko when he was here. Like, obviously talented players didn't give a toss. They just didn't want to be here, and they're not the only ones as well. Like, we've had plenty over the years that have just not been interested. Sometimes there's sort of managerial calamities, or there's reasons why players are unhappy. But you're right. Like these guys love it. You know, Dan Burn when he scored his goal and he did that dance. You know, it's just like stuff like that's just amazing. And you see like people, you know, fans can say, "Oh, Bruno," but he loves it. He loves it. He absolutely. You can just tell. You know, like. He might not be here forever, you know. He might have a few more years, and then he might move on to bigger things, or maybe he won't. You know, he seems to absolutely love the club. Maybe people would think that's naive supporters thinking that about players when it's football and money talks, but he certainly seems to, the way he is, and I think that kind of demonstrates what you're talking about there, the character and the passion that the players have got. And it's precious, you know. We shouldn't sort of denigrate that. We shouldn't take it for granted, because sometimes it doesn't happen like that. So 100% with you on that one. Craig, what's your first thing that you've been impressed with this season?
We've got our identity back as a club. I think that is key. For a good number of years, we were just nondescript, just another football club in the league, chugging along, hoping for survival and waiting for the next season to come along. But now we are back. We are a force to be reckoned with. And I've said this many times, the football world knows that the sleeping giant is rustling from its slumber. And when the shackles are off and we do qualify for the Champions League, whether this season, next season, or the season after, and we've got less of a financial strait, the world of football is going to know the name Newcastle United once more.
Yeah. It's been, like I said, before this season, it had been tough. Before the takeover, we were existing to exist. We were a zombie club, just sort of bumbling along, not really doing much.
Ticking
along, not sort of making inroads into anything. Nobody really cared. I saw today that we've been on Sky for the last 14 games in a row, or something like that.
Really,
you know?
Jesus.
Something like that, yeah. I think including the cup run, and that just shows you that, you know, even we've always been box office, even when we haven't been doing well, because something terrible's happened. You know, like we've been like some kind of shambles has gone on or something, which has made that people have been still wanting to watch us. But people want to watch us now because we're actually good to watch, you know, and the atmosphere is good. I was listening to an interview with Will Still, who's making some news, who's at Ram, or whatever, however you pronounce it, the French team. And he said that Newcastle are the team he likes to watch the most at the moment, probably because of, you know, the way that we've been coached and the whole atmosphere around the club and the way everything's going. So absolutely on that one, Craig, I agree with that. And it kind of ties into one of the things that I wanted to say, which is that for me, just being able to support my club again, being able to love my club again means so much, because for Ashley's period, I had a season ticket for some of that, and then I just gave it up when I think it was when John Carver was there. I was like, I'm not paying for this. Like, it was absolute. And that was a painful thing for me to do, because I love going to the game, and it was something that I did with my friends, you know. And then I moved here, and I watched the games when I could, or when I could be bothered. I couldn't be bothered very often. I'm not sick like you two. I was like, nah, I've got better things to do, or I value sleep more. But this season I've only missed one game, you know, and that was the Chelsea game when I had to go to hospital for something. So it's just good to have that passion back. It's good to have that love, you know, and to want us to win games. I'm desperate for us to win games now. And previously I just wasn't bothered. Like when we were sitting in mid-table, it was like, shrug your shoulders. Who cares? You know, like it doesn't mean anything. But now it means everything. Like that Forest game when we scored that goal. I was buzzing for 5 days. I think I still am about it. You know, I still keep thinking about it every day. And just to have that back, like especially for us being so far away, it's such a I think it's just such a special thing to have that feeling back and to have that engagement back. And it's the way the club is. One of the things as well is the way the club's been with the social media, which has helped things. Especially that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, the social media output and the match cam they do. Like that's just so good. Like that helps you get into that, get in there and see what it's all about, as well as getting the good view of the goals. But you get that 10, 15 minute YouTube video of a match day and the players coming in and saying hello to the staff, and you just see those little relationships that go on. And that's a really clever way, I think, that the club have managed to connect and that they've really managed to improve. It's good for them at the moment because they've got a captive audience and everyone's happy. Like if they tried to do that under Mike Ashley, they would have just got a load of abuse on the comments and things. But it's clever of them to sort of harness that, I think, and go with it. And it's all playing into what is happening at the club at the moment, which is really making us feel excited for what's going to come. Dimmy, what's your next thing that you wanted to talk about that you've been pleased about?
I think for me, it's the strike rate of the signings that we've made. I don't think anyone would have expected that. Obviously, we're going to sign quality players, but the fact that probably 80-90% of them have all worked out and then some. I mean, Sven Botman's an absolute star in the making at centre-back, and he's only 21, 22 years old. Popey's arguably England's number one goalkeeper and has been superb for us, other than that 30-second brain fart that cost him a cup final berth. And obviously Bruno, we got him last year. Isak, we're starting to see how good this bloke is, and I think his performance in the last couple of weeks has just made everyone supporting Newcastle just sit back and say, geez, this guy's he's a proper player. I don't think I've ever seen, to be honest, a striker with that much wiggle on the ball and that much sort of balance, and he's just dynamic. And we haven't had a player like that, I don't think, ever in my time. And it's just exciting. I mean, you see Ashworth and you see what the club have been doing behind the scenes, and you've probably got to give the scouts some credit as well. But the strike rate has been sensational, and long may it continue.
Even the ones who haven't been, torn up trees, Chris Wood, we've managed to sell him still for, not much of a loss by all accounts. So
yeah.
And the other one's probably Matt Targett, who he's been injured. He had his thigh injury and then he just hasn't been able to get back into the team. But I still don't think you can't say that he's been a failure. He was great on loan last season, and he's a good squad player anyway, even when he comes back fit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we'll probably see a bit of him before the end of the season. But I think they've referenced the fact that they have to have these successful transfers at the moment because we haven't got that much wiggle room with the finances. So it's important that when they do make a transfer that it works as much as it can. And they've done such a good job, like especially considering the panic and in that January transfer window, the first January transfer window they had, where it got to the last 4 days and we'd only signed Trippier and Chris Wood. But like you said, we've now got a spine. We've bought a spine of a team that can be there for a long time. Pope, Botman, Bruno, and Isak could potentially be the spine for the next sort of 4 or 5 years, And if you can build around that, then you're not doing too badly. So absolutely on that one. Craig, what was your next thing?
Probably the development of some players that I and a few others had written off. Murphy and Longstaff, two of the big names. Murphy I'd written off before he even kicked the ball this season, and pretty much hold my hands up and regret that decision because he's been such a key player over the last 10, 15 games. And Longstaff has come on leaps and bounds. He is a player that could be pushing alongside Joe Willock for an England call-up in the not-too-distant future. He's been very consistent. Yes, he's not scoring as many goals as he should do, but that will come with time and more control on the ball, which, again, he's going to get over more experience. But, yeah, I think Jacob Murphy and Sean Longstaff, them two have come on leaps and bounds in 20, 30-plus games, and I didn't expect to see that at all from either of those.
And that leads me nicely into the main thing that I was going to say, which is Eddie Howe. He's amazing. He is. We've talked about him a lot, and I think we're used to the fact he's our manager now. So he doesn't maybe get the attention on him that he could, especially because we had that little run where we weren't doing as well. But the way he's organised the defence, which we've already touched on, is just outstanding. The belief and character he's instilled in the team, like especially the last two games, the Wolves game to go and get the winner after conceding late, and then the Forest game, last minute winner. This is because he's instilled this character and this belief in this team. The positive culture, which when we talked to Serena Taylor a year ago now, she was talking about some of the small things Eddie Howe did to get the culture, the positive culture put forward. And that's obvious, in the way that those videos I was talking about on YouTube, but the way that the team work together and everyone plays together, and the tactics he's employed to get results, which has upset some of the big teams sometimes. But who cares about that?
Yeah.
Like you said, we're not here to make friends. We're here to compete and here to win. And I think definitely the most impressive thing is the improvement he's got out of those players like Longstaff and Murphy, who are decent players, but probably limited as well. It's fair to say they're limited. They're not the best, the most talented players. But then the improvement he got out of Joe Linton as well has been amazing, and the performances he's got out of Bruno. He's improved players. I think probably Maxi's the only player who you can't say honestly has improved under Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
And I think he's just been such a massive signing for the club. He's been amazing. It made me laugh seeing Stan Collymore again talking shit on Twitter or on the news about how we should go and get Nagelsmann. And there was a poll that someone put on saying, would you want him instead of Howe? And absolutely nobody would. I think there was like 5% said they would. So I think he could be our manager for the next. Like I was just talking about the spine of the team there. He could be the guy to pull this together, and we've come close to winning the trophy already. So what can we do over the next 5 years? What are you going to say, Greg?
Well, I was talking to a mate on Facebook, and he said, imagine in an alternative reality, we did end up with Conte and Jesse Lingard. Could you imagine if that's the way it had went? That would have been... I don't even want to contemplate how bad that would have. So thank God we went for Eddie, and thank God we got the players we did.
Yeah, it was a stroke of luck, I think, Emery rejecting us, because I think we got the right guy in the end. And there really is a lot to be said about the character and the personality of the manager. Like, it's important that they're good people and that you can get behind them, because even when Pardew was doing all right, he was still hard to get behind in some ways. And you just look at clubs who've had Sam Allardyce. He's got results and he's done all right, but nobody really likes him still. You want to have warmth and you want to have some feeling towards your manager. And I think with Eddie, we've definitely got that. So hopefully he's here for a long, long time. Just like Murdad said he was going to be Alex Ferguson, so Murdad got excited and said he was going to be Alex Ferguson. All right. Last things I think from you that you've really enjoyed about this season. Dimmy, you first.
I've really enjoyed the week in, week out intensity that we've played at. I think, again, we're not used to seeing a Newcastle team like this who press and harass and just get in your face and don't give anyone time to breathe. And I think like you said about Eddie, he's obviously the manager of the club, but he's a fantastic coach. Clearly, he's been coaching these boys brilliantly ever since he's come in, and the intensity that we play at and the constant harassing and pressure is something that I haven't seen a Newcastle team ever do. And the way football is going these days, you have to play like that if you want to succeed. You have to have that intensity off the ball as much as you have it on the ball. So for me, that's been a fantastic highlight of the season, just seeing how we've progressed in that style, and we're not just park the bus and get one or two chances and maybe nick a goal or nick a draw. We're in people's faces and we're getting majority of the possession a lot of the time, which is great to see.
It's so good to watch. Like when it works and when it clicks. Like probably the Brentford game at home really stands out as a game where everything stands out because Craig had to dye his hair yellow. But everything sort of clicked in that game, and most of the goals came from high pressing and then forcing errors. And then it was noticeable after the World Cup a little bit where things dropped. The intensity seemed to drop a little bit, whether it was because of fitness or the opposition we had, but things did seem to drop a bit. But the last two games, it definitely looks like it's back. So we'll have to see if we can keep that up for the last 12 games of the season. Craig, what was your last thing that you've enjoyed this season?
I think it's just the way the owners have conducted themselves with the fans. It's just something, again, we just haven't been used to. Within the first 5 minutes of them taking over, they're already had more connection with the fans than what Ashley did in 14 years. And it's just been a joy. The fact that you've got Jamie Rubin and Mehrdad Ghodoussi all ribbing each other on Twitter. They're taking shots of the cup final, the down in Trafalgar Square with the fans, albeit incognito, that type of thing. I think that level of connection with the ownership and the fans is just, it's making them more human, if that makes any sense. There's just the connection there that we've never had for a good number of years. And that is just what's going to help, I think, connect everybody back together again, because they are the focal point. They want to listen to what we want as fans. The big thing again, obviously, staying at St James's Park, the Port Strawberry place back, that is a huge testament for what they want to do with St James's Park. They don't just want to bulldoze it down and build a new one. They listen to what we want. And yes, they will make mistakes. They haven't made any yet, as far as I'm aware of, or that I can remember. But they are listening to us. We're not just there in terms of, they're going to shovel money in every game and I want to put it in your own back pocket. They've already invested a shit ton of money. And we've had the windows cleaned as well, which is always a bonus.
The Gallagher pigeon's gone.
Yeah, the Gallagher pigeon's gone. Shearer statue got moved. So it's little things like that make a huge difference in terms of the connection with the fans, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and with Darren Eales as well, they've gone out and got a guy who does that. That's what he's known for, and that's what he did so well when he was at Atlanta. And then there was the footage of him outside Wembley talking to the fans and having a drink. We've kind of been not to this extent, but Mike Ashley did this as well to a little bit. So yeah, you always just have to be a little bit careful. And like you said, Craig, as well, that at some point they're going to make unpopular decisions. They're going to do things that people don't like. But so far it's been plain sailing for them. It's been really good, and long may that continue. And let's just hope they can keep going the way they have been. All right, so it's been good. The season's been good. The club's good. Everyone feels good. I'm well on the record as saying that I'm just so happy with the way things are going. Even if things on the pitch, if we don't win a game or if we have a defeat, it's all right, because we've got these owners and we haven't got Mike Ashley anymore, and the club's going in the right direction. But there's been a few sort of maybe areas for concern. I just want to touch on a couple of them now before we'll have a look at what we think might happen the rest of the season. But Craig, I'll come to you first. We'll probably just do one thing each for this. So what have you seen, or what have you seen that's kind of given you a little bit of concern or a bit of something to be worried about so far this season?
I don't know whether it's really a cause for concern, but Ryan Fraser's attitude. He was known for it at Bournemouth when he effectively went on strike in that COVID season, I think it was. And him and Eddie did patch up, apparently, or at least that's what they're claiming on camera. Whether there was still a little bit of a needle between them or anything like that, we don't know. But something has happened there, because Ryan Fraser, he was one of the top media go-to guys because of his relationship with Dan Burn. So he was always front and center of the camera and everything like that. And then something just happened, whether it was he wasn't getting a lack of game time or anything, or they have just had another falling out. And I think Eddie specifically came out and said, yeah, his future at the club, he basically doesn't have one anymore, and he's training with the reserves. That's the first time we've heard of any type of disharmony within the group. And I'm kind of glad Eddie's nipped it in the butt straight away, because that could have escalated. Could have went to a few other players who aren't getting that type of game time, for example, like Matt Ritchie. But I think he knows his place in the squad. Matt Ritchie is too clever for that. But there are one or two others which could have spat the dummy and done a similar type of thing. But that's the only thing that really strikes a nerve or hits a chord with me in terms of any negativity throughout the season.
Yeah, and it was very unusual for Eddie to come out and condemn that the way he did, because usually he plays a straight bat in press conferences and he just doesn't give any headlines or anything. But with this one, he was like, yeah, he's training with the reserves, under 21s, and he's not coming back until he can show he's committed. So that was pretty much as hard as Eddie's going to get on any individual. And like I said, he's got that history at Bournemouth as well. I think it probably would have been best if he'd gone in January, but he's probably on decent wages because he was on a free transfer as well. But it's kind of showcased Eddie's man management, and that he's not a pushover, and that he's not just gonna let people he knows or he's worked with before get away with things. He's not going to show favoritism in that way. So that was it was strange from Ryan Fraser as well, because he was actually in and around the squad a little bit, and last season he played quite well. He had a few games. So I don't think he'll be playing again for Newcastle, and he'll be consigned to the history books for us. And it's probably, definitely been a signing that hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Dimmy, what did you want to talk about in terms of things that you've been a little bit concerned about this season?
So obviously, despite being an XG wanker like yourself, and obviously we've been doing very well on the XG stats, the lack of goals is concerning. And despite the stats showing that we are creating chances, it is still a concern. And I think we are the lowest scorers in the top 8 of the Premier League at the moment. So it is something that could potentially cost us a higher spot on the table. So that for me is still the main concern of the team, whether we can finish in the top 4 or not. It's whether we're going to take our chances when they come. We know we're going to create the chances, and we know they're going to be most likely very good chances, but whether we can take them or not will be the question. But hopefully now with big dog Isaac up front, that worry can be subsided.
Yeah, there's been an over-reliance on Miggy as well in the first part of the season. He was just scoring wonder goals every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was very, very unexpected. But that's been what was happening. So we were overperforming our XG then. We were scoring more goals than we should have been. And then between the World Cup and the Cup final, we were scoring less than we should have been on the XG. But we've definitely struggled against some of these low block teams. If I never have to play Crystal Palace or Bournemouth again, I'll be happy. We've played them. I think we've played them 5 times? No, 6 times, because we've got them both in the cup. And we struggled. We struggled then as well. So I hope they both get relegated. We'll never see them again. But there's definitely been sort of profligacy with our strikers and with the attackers at times. And it was particularly in that section of the season, section 3, I would say, in between the World Cup and the Cup final. But what can you think, Craig? What do you think we can do to remedy that? Do you think we just need to get better players in, or do you think there's something structurally we'll have to do to start scoring more goals?
I think one of the key things has been consistency and fitness of the strikers. Obviously, Isak got injured relatively early in his career, and he then re-injured that injury during his rehabilitation, I think it was. So that put him out for a good number of months. Wilson probably went to the World Cup not fit and come back even less fit. And I think he's only scored 1 goal since, and that was against West Ham in the opening 30 seconds or whatever it was. So Wilson's not firing all cylinders. Isak, he's coming good now. It took him a little bit of time to get back to full fitness and everything. So if we can get Isak firing on all cylinders, then we've got a good chance to maintain it, to get some consistency going. If you look like Man United, they've got Rashford, who's been continuously fit for the season pretty much. Same for Kane. You've got Eddie Nketiah for Arsenal and Haaland. They've all been consistently fit. So they're scoring goals for fun effectively. We haven't had a consistently fit striker all season, and I think that is shown where our lack of goals are coming from.
Yeah. And I think as well, if you stick a creative number 10 player into that, if you stick Maddison into that team, for example, we're going to create more chances, and we're going to score more goals, and we're going to have more luck against these teams that come and sit deep. So I think that could be a key signing we'll make, somebody in that creative position, or if we sign a defensive midfielder so Bruno can push forward a bit more as well, that might help. But I'm definitely not worried long term about this, because I think that we've got the resources. I think we've got the good basis of the players in there as well. That's going to help. So if you can get a creative attacking midfielder and then a wide forward, a real quality wide forward as well to help, to take some of the pressure off Miggy scoring all those goals. I think that would be helpful. The thing that I've been disappointed, I'm not going to go too hard on this because I've talked about this before, but kind of like the fan base a little bit, the reaction to any adversity when anything bad happens. There's a massive overreaction to defeats or to draws even, and the fan base at times does come across as a bit entitled and a little bit demanding. I think I understand why people don't want to keep harking back to where we were, but you can't look at the club now without that context of where we were. I think people lose sight sometimes a little bit of the big picture, and I don't like the way that people react sometimes to certain players like Longstaff and Murphy are two examples. But even when we were sort of in that rut where we were struggling a little bit, a lot of fans they're getting really wound up and panicking a little, and fair enough, everyone's entitled to an opinion, but that's loud sometimes. I don't think that filters through to the players, which is good, or maybe it does to the ones who are on social media a little bit. But I think it'd be good for people to. It's going to take a while, to get used to as being a big club, though, as well. We are a big club now. We're going to be one of the elite, but I don't think there needs to be a sort of mass meltdown whenever we don't win, whenever we draw, because football's hard and it's going to happen all the time, and we're winning many, many more games than what we're not winning. Maybe sometimes it's the way it happens, where it all happens in a bunch, and we kind of lose form a little bit. But me and you, especially Dimmy, have always maintained we're going to be fine. We're going to score, we're going to win, and I'm so happy we won those 2 games and we scored those 4 goals just before the break, because I think it just was what we needed, just to calm everyone down a bit, and to have this break with everyone in a good place. Last thing we're going to do before we talk about the games coming up, I just want to have a talk about what's been the biggest surprise of the season so far. And when I said this to you, I said we're not allowed to talk about Miggy, so I'm going to talk about Miggy first. Nobody thought Miggy was going to. Nobody thought Miggy was going to go on that run he went on. That was unbelievable. Most of us would have been happy to have seen Miggy sold in the summer, I think. So he'd scored 6 goals in his career for us before the season, and then he went and scored 6 in 6 games earlier in this season. So he's been the biggest surprise. Everyone would agree with that. We're not allowed to talk about Miggy. Dimmy, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, for me, I think it has to be our defense and our goal difference at the moment. I don't remember a time where our goal difference was positive, let alone plus 20 at this stage of the season. So I think for me, that's the biggest surprise, that we keep clean sheets, we don't concede many goals, and we've got a plus 20 goal difference, which is just absolutely bonkers when we're used to copping 4s and 5s week in, week out, and having to scrape with our minus 25 goal difference and somehow stay up. So for me, that's been the biggest shock, that our goal difference is in the positive.
Especially when you've got Dan Burn at left back as well, who's done well, but he's not a left back, he's a centre back, So
exactly.
Yeah, to have conceded 6 less than anyone else at this stage is quite amazing, especially because 3 of those goals we did concede were against Man City in one game as well. Craig, what's been the biggest surprise for you apart from Miggy?
Just to echo what Dimmy said, to be honest, because again, historically, Newcastle don't defend well as a team. It was the whole Kevin Keegan type philosophy. You score 2, we'll score 3. We don't care how many we concede as long as we score more. But now we go into a game where we think, yeah, we can win this 1-0 because we're so defensively solid. And it's such a breath of fresh air, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. All right. That's the season so far then. We are going to have a very quick break, and we'll be back to have a look at the run-in. See you in a minute. So to use the big cliche that football is said in football, we've got 12 cup finals coming up. Here they are. We start with Man United at home next Monday for us, Monday morning, which is an absolutely massive game, in which I'm a bit sad it can't be this week instead, because I think we've got the momentum and we'd be excited about that. So we've got Man United at home, then we've got West Ham away, we've got Brentford away, and we've got Villa away. So for the second season in a row, we seem to have a massive run of away games all at the same time. I think it was 5 last season, but it's only 3 this season. So, and then we've got Spurs at home, and we've got Everton away, and we've got Southampton at home, and then we've got Arsenal at home, Leeds away. Last home game is against Leicester, and the last away game is at Chelsea. And there's also the home game against Brighton to fit in as well, which hasn't been scheduled yet. So that's it. They're the 12 games that are going to define the rest of our season. It's good that we haven't got any other distractions now that the cup final is out of the way. What do you think, Dimmy, when you see, we're going to have a look at what we've predicted in terms of where we might finish, but what do you think when you see that set of fixtures coming up?
Lots of opportunity. I think there's the way we play, we, like you said, we've only lost 3 games all season. So most games we should feel confident we can get a result. But I think there's plenty of opportunity there. And I think the big thing for us is we've got 2 of our bigger rivals for the last couple of top 4 spots. We've got them at home, and if you include Brighton as well, who's
3, yeah,
sort of in around their 3. So we've basically got everything in our hands, and that's where you want to be at this stage of the season. You want it to be in your hands, not in someone else's. So with those 2 games in hand and Man United, Spurs, and Brighton at home, it's all up to us, to be honest, to whether we want to take that top 4 spot or not.
Yeah, and like Craig said before, we've done well away against most of the big teams, and we've done well against most teams, full stop. But it's good to have these games at home, because you know for a fact that Man United and Spurs and Arsenal and Brighton won't be looking forward to coming to Newcastle. They'll have that picked out on their fixtures as one of their hardest games of the season left. What do you think, Craig, about that fixture list? I think it looks all right. It
does. The running within that first month of April, there's a lot of teams there which are thinking, we could get 3 points. I don't want to say comfort, because there's no easy games in the Premier League. There's just some easier than others. But I do think we'll beat Man United. I do think we'll overtake them in the table next weekend. West Ham away, that is the reschedule game from the weekend the Queen died, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
They're not doing too good at all. They're literally scraping the barrel for points. They're fighting relegation. Brentford, they're ticking along nicely. Villa, they're just meh team. No one really cares about Villa. Spurs, that's a massive game, that one. That one could literally decide the top 4. That's how close it could be. Yes, we've got 2 games in hand in them, so getting 3 points against those and getting advantage of those 2 games in hand will be absolutely crucial. Then every game from that is just another step towards Champions League glory.
There's a couple of games there against relegation-threatened teams, which at the minute is half the league, because the bottom half seems to be separated by about 1 point for about 9 teams at the moment. But Leeds might still, when we play them, they might still be in the relegation fight. I think Leicester should be out of it by then. They've got quite good fixtures and they've got good players. Southampton are probably going to be in it till the end. Everton, that's going to be a difficult one with Dyche there as well. And after we got beat there last season. But I think those 3 games, like you said, against Man United, Spurs, and Brighton, I think will go a long way to sort of working out whether we're going to be, which European competition we're going to be playing in next season. Yeah. And before we have a look at our league tables that we've predicted, Newcastle are currently on about 1.8 points per game. So if that continued over the last 12 games, we would finish the season on 68 points. So 2 out of the last 3 seasons, that's been good enough for top 4. In 21-22, it would have been 6th, which was last season. But then in 2021 and 19-20, we would have been 4th and 3rd. So if we can get around that high 60s, 68 to kind of 70 points, I think that's going to be likely. Well, we're definitely going to be playing some kind of European football, but it's going to be probable that it might be Champions League. And to get that'd be 21 points from here. So you're looking at 7 wins out of the last 12, or you're looking at 6 wins and a few draws, and not losing many games. But yeah, I agree with what you said. The fixtures look quite good. That away run's going to be tricky, but we'll see how how can pull up out of that one. And then towards the end of the season, it just gets a bit random. Like you get games that just the results just don't make any sense whatsoever. But usually it's when there's a lot of games that nothing is riding on and teams are not playing for anything. But like I said, Arsenal will be going for the league. If you look at the May fixtures, Arsenal will be going for the league. Leeds will be trying to stay up. Leicester probably might not have anything to play for by then, and Chelsea will be mid-table. But it's Chelsea, so it's still going to be hard either way. Let's have a look at what we think then. We've spent time coming up with these predictions. I found a website that you can do predictions on. So we've each had a go of doing it. It took about an hour because you have to predict every result for every team. But I've got them up on the slide here. I'm coming to you first, Dimmy, because I like your table. I like it a lot. Because I thought that you might. I'm a bit disappointed you haven't got us winning the league because I thought you were a positive guy. But there you are. Well, you've got us finishing in fourth there, so on 74 points. So explain it.
So as you can see, I've only got us losing one more game for the rest of the season, which I'm not sure how likely is. But if you look at us, we've lost 3 games in 26. So losing 1 in 12 is not as unrealistic as some people may think. So I've got us in fourth. I've got us just in between Liverpool and Man United. I think that the game that I've got us losing is, I think I've put Arsenal at home as a loss. I think Arsenal probably owe us one, and they'll be obviously fighting for the title right until the end. So I've got us losing that game. But besides that, it's hard for me to see us losing games. I mean, we're not used to seeing us lose games, and even when we're playing a team like West Ham away or an Aston Villa away, we haven't got great records at those stadiums, and we don't usually get results. But why not? I mean, we've beaten Spurs this year away. We've had fantastic results at home against big clubs. So there's no reason why we shouldn't think that we can win or be undefeated in most games. And I just think Liverpool have too much to do. I've probably given Liverpool a few too many wins. I'm probably still thinking that they're still the same old Liverpool, but I think Spurs are cooked. They're obviously Conte has just gone ballistic and that's about to blow up. So I wish we were playing Spurs this week, to be honest, not Man United. That would have been perfect for us. But I think Spurs are cooked, and I think Liverpool's the only one who can catch us. And I think they've got a tough run. They've got Arsenal at home from memory. They've got Man City away, and I believe they've got Spurs at home as well. So they've got some tough fixtures themselves. So I think, as that table says, I think we're going to finish fourth, and Champions League, here we come.
Yeah, I did say that I like your table, but look at that title race as well. That's same wins, same draws, same defeats, same.
So
points.
just to make myself clear, I've got City winning the league by +6 goals, but on Man City and Arsenal's games, I was just putting in whether it was going to be a winner or a loss, so a 1-0 or that's all. I wasn't putting whether Arsenal or City were going to score 3 or 4 or 5 goals. So it's going to be very close from that table. And if Arsenal lose on goal difference, they're going to be absolutely spewing.
So you've got us winning 8 of the last 12, drawing 3, and losing 1. I remember when we all laughed at you last season when you said that we were going to win. You said we were going to win.
I remember.
You said you were going to win 8 out of 10 or something, and then we did. So
it was like 6 of the last 8 or something, and Lee just said, I'm taking the piss. So I had to I think it was like a 14 point, which was 14 out of 6 games or something like that. Then Lee said, no chance. I put it down to 11. But look, I'm a positive bloke, and generally speaking, as you guys know, but I genuinely think that we're a massive show for the top 4, and that table says Nostradamus predicts it. So let's go with it.
And there it is in black and white, or in green and blue and white. So we'll be looking forward to looking at these at the end of the season and see who got the closest. And you've also got Southampton, Bournemouth, and Everton going down. That would be but same points for Everton as Wolves and Palace, and 1 point behind Forest.
Yeah. So it's going to be a bee's dick between it. But look, it's I can't say I'll be disappointed to see Everton go down there. Their club probably deserves a relegation like ours had. Yeah, well overdue. So I think it might not be the worst for them to go down this season.
There might be a points deduction coming their way as well because of FFP stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. Right, Craig, let's have a look at your league table. You've also got us in fourth. You've got us on 71 points. Talk to us about you've got us not losing any more games though. Talk to us about this.
I've got us getting a fair few more draws though. So again, as mentioned, if we can't win, just make sure we don't lose, and that's the kind of mentality I went with that one. Liverpool sat in fifth. Their next 3 games will define how they finish the season. I think. Again, I think it's Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. They've got whatever combination of those 3. So they need to get at least 5 points from those 9, I think, to even stand a chance. In the way I had the table going, I actually checked the totals for the start of week 38. I hadn't put any numbers in. And we were on points level with Liverpool, 70 to 71. And we played Chelsea. And I had us to draw Chelsea 1-0. In Liverpool, they're getting beat last game of the season. And we take it literally on the 1 point. That's how I had it all planned out. The goals, if you look at this, still keeps us the top defense in the league as well, just by 2. We concede 28, score 60. And we're not the highest goal scorers by any stretch. We're actually the lowest in the top 4 and even the top 6. Not even top 8 on that one. But yeah, conceding only 28 goals. And if you can only concede 28 goals all season, I think you deserve to get Champions League football. But yeah, it's going to be very, very tight at the finish. The next few games will define it for a lot of clubs. I was included. And for relegation, I've got Bournemouth propping it up at the bottom. Forest, then followed by Southampton. Everton just scraping through, just like they did last season. I think they'll just get away with it. Dyche's a good manager. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to put a team together. And other clubs, the likes of Chelsea, just propping up the rest of the likes of Brentford, Spurs. Like Dimmy said, I think he'll drop off. Brighton will give a good fight right until the death, but I just don't think they've got enough to overtake us or Liverpool.
Yeah, I noticed you had Brighton on 69 points there, so just a couple of points behind us. But you've also got Man City winning the league. Exactly the same as Dimmy, 30 wins, 4 draws and 4 defeats for Man City and Arsenal.
Yeah, it is going to go down to the wire, and I know Arsenal have still got to go to the Etihad this season as well. So again, that is going to be game of the season for the neutral anyway. It's going to be absolutely massive. And we don't have to play Man City anymore, thank God. But we do have Arsenal to come to St. James's. And that is after, I think, they play Man City. So again, that is a huge game in both aspects for the league title and our Champions League chase too.
This has got a good shout, I think, for being one of the best overall Premier League seasons, certainly out of the last kind of 10, 15 years. Because you've got a proper title race, you've got a relegation battle where almost anyone can go down, and you've got probably 3 or 4 teams trying to get into the top 4 as well. So there's not really that much in between. So this is really shaping up to be a good end to the season. Let's have a look at what I've done then. I'm generally a little bit more pessimistic when it comes to predicting for Newcastle. So I've got us finishing in 5th on 67 points. So that would be 5 wins, 2 defeats, and 5 draws maybe. Yeah, 5 draws from the last 12 games. Like I said, that's maybe a little bit on the pessimistic side. I don't like to jinx us. I think we might lose one of those away games, annoyingly to Villa or West Ham or someone. But I think we're going to beat Man United. I think we're going to beat Spurs. I think we're going to be really good at home. And then it will be those games against Spurs, Brighton, and Man United. I think that will settle it for us one way or another. But I do have Liverpool finishing above us. Like you said before, Dimmy, that might just be because I've got old Liverpool in my mind a little bit. I know that they've got quite good fixtures coming up after the 3 coming up now as well. They did this a few seasons ago, Liverpool, where they didn't look like they were going to make it, and then Alisson went and scored a header for them in one of the last games against West Brom. So I'm just a little bit worried that their overall quality in their squad and their experience might show through a bit. And Spurs, I've got level on points with us, but that could, they could completely implode, depending on what happens with Conte. Brighton have got the cup that they're still in the cup, so that they might be distracted a little bit by that, but they do have quite good fixtures as well. So I'm saying 5th there. If we finish 5th, I'd still be happy with the season. But if you're going into that last game against Chelsea, and we need to win to come 4th. Yeah, 5th. If we finish 5th in that circumstance, it won't feel so good. But I think when the dust is settled, everyone will be really pleased with that. And I've actually got Arsenal winning the league there instead of Man City. That might just be because I want them to win instead of Man City, because I want a bit different. I want something a bit different to happen. But yeah, we could have a big bearing on that title race with that game. And like I said, they won't be relishing coming to St. James's after what happened last season when they needed to win. And then I've got Bournemouth, Southampton, and Forest going down. Forest are playing Everton on the last day, so that's a massive game. That's at Goodison Park. So it'd be really interesting to look back at these 3 league tables and see who is the true Nostradamus of the Tune in the Pod. But yeah, it was an interesting little exercise, and it filled some time for us in this international break, which absolutely nobody wanted. And like I said, we've still got a week to go before we're playing against Man United, so a little bit of more time to get through. We do have a preview of the Man United game coming up, and that's with Manchester United fan Tom from the United Pubcast, Australian-based Manchester United podcast. So that'll be good. That'll be with Keegan, I think, on Wednesday. And I think that's pretty much it. Anything else anyone wants to say about that little exercise we just did, or anything else before we wrap up?
No,
put your hard-earned on my table.
It's going to be called Nostra Craigie soon, not rather Nostra Jimmy. So you're going to lose your
I'll take your table. I'll take your table, mate. We'll finish 4th, and we'll take that.
Yeah, I won't be putting the mortgage on your table, Dimmy. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll see. Famous last words, Jack. Famous last words.
All right. Thanks very much for watching and for listening. Remember to give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. We want to get towards that target. And we will catch up with you later in the week. Cheers, boys. Enjoy your Sunday night.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, mate.
Ta-ra.